This hangout is live on air. I believe it's all set. Okay, hello everyone. This is Michelle W. for Celestial Remnant channel, and today we have a special guest, J Chesson, and most of you know her by J7409, and she is going to share her testimony with us today, and we are just thrilled to have her here. Her testimony is a very emotional one. It touched my heart, and I just hope that it does the same for you. And Jay, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you for having me. I don't know about where you are, but it is some hot on the coast of North Carolina today.
It's hot here too. It's so humid. It's July.
Yes. Well, to get started, first of all, I would like to say, people, I've always believed in my Creator and God, and Jesus is my Savior, but I haven't always lived a real good way. I just want to point that out before I even get into it. But I was in a head-on collision a few years ago. Before that collision, I didn't have any patience at all. Zilch. Do it right. No time for mistakes. If you can't do it right, get out. Kind of like Donald Trump. You're fired. Just get out. Just get away from me. I mean, this wasn't just at my work. This was with my friends. This was with my family members. This was just the way I was. And it wasn't a very good way. One day, God did something. And in the meantime, without me having any patience, I also hung around people that really weren't good for me. And I hung out with them for all the wrong reasons. Who wants to be with the cool people, man? You know? Who cares if you're cool? Who cares if you're cool or not, folks? Be yourself always. And in the end, I'll guarantee you won't regret it. Just be yourself.
That's some great advice.
Well, I had this accident. I was riding down the road, minding my own business, and a car pulled in my lane 8 feet in front of me. And boom. Well, I didn't have time to get scared. I didn't have time to get out of the way or hit the ditch. I didn't have time to worry or I didn't have time to do anything. The only thing that went through my mind at that point, I knew I was going to die, number one. And the only thing that went through my mind was the next thing I'm going to see is Jesus. Well, when I got hit, immediately, I can close my eyes and remember it just like it was. I could feel myself going up like this towards the dash in the window. As soon as I got hit like that and I was moving up, that's the last thing I remember, just moving up. And the joke, just imagine yourself going 55 miles per hour and you run into something 8 feet in front of you that's going 60 miles per hour.
No,
That's how big a jolt. That's how big a jolt it is. Well, when that jolt happened, and when I remembered the last thing, my body was just floating up, going towards the dash in the windshield. I went somewhere, and I have no idea where this place was. I'm not going to call it heaven. I'm not going to call it outside of heaven. I don't know what it was, but I don't think heaven was too far away. But where I went was beautiful. There was hills with green grass, all kinds of hills. And off in the background, I do remember in my peripheral vision, I could see something way off in the distance, but I really didn't pay that much attention to it because right in front of me was this beautiful little pond. And it had really pretty trees all around it, and stones, big stones were laid all around it, and there was a bench made out of stone under a tree right before you got to the pond. Well, before I even got to the pond, this voice started talking to me. I heard this voice, and it kept saying, "Jewel," and it did know my name. It said, "Jewel, keep the faith, have patience, and in time, everything will be all right." Well, if this voice said it to me once, it said it 100 times while I was at this place. I wanted to know where it was coming from. So I started walking around these stones around the pond, pulling back limbs, trying to find where this man was that was talking to me because I wanted to know where I was. Well, after I walked all the way around that pond, when I got to the very last stone and I pulled back the very last limb I could reach, boom, there was this massive, the brightest light I've ever seen in my entire being. And it was nothing but energy. It was just so white and so bright. I couldn't look at it. When I got a glimpse of it, immediately I was back in my truck. I opened my eyes. I couldn't feel anything for a few seconds. No pain. I was bleeding like crazy, but no pain, no nothing. Didn't hurt anywhere. And then I felt this tingling start in my head. And I could feel it as it would tingle. And it went all the way down my body till it reached the very end of my feet. I call that my soul coming back to my body. My body was here, but it's like my soul went somewhere. Well, my right foot was through the footboard. My right foot is cut off just a little ways past my ankle off. I have a rod for a toe. My right arm, my elbow has a hinge and 18 screws. My right wrist has 6 screws. My right index finger is partially cut off. My left arm's another story. It got hung up in the steering wheel going round and round and round, and it broke in two. And I have a big V-shaped scar on one side of it, and my bone came out of it. I don't know what happened to it, but in that arm I have a rod, a plate, and 28 screws from my elbow to my wrist. My pelvis is 75% metal. Both my hips are put back together. I have a rod up my other leg. And I could go on and on. I have a wire with a filter on it that's run from my jugular vein all the way through my body down to my big artery in the bottom of my stomach. So that's how it left me. Now we'll go a little bit further. I went to a little hospital. From the little hospital, I was put on a chopper and flew to a bigger hospital, a great big hospital. When I arrived at that hospital, it was a little after 8 that evening. I was in pretty bad shape, but I was still here, okay? I had no family with me. My mother was 90 years old, okay? She couldn't get there. I did have a friend that went, but they couldn't do anything for me. After they heard I'd had this wreck, they went on, but they couldn't do anything for me because they were not kin to me. Before I go any further, I've dabbled in a lot of stuff, as a lot of people have known. I used to be a licensed paramedic. I worked in the hospital for a while, in the ER. I thought many times about becoming an organ donor. That would be a really nice thing to do to help somebody out, you know?
Right.
We all think, well, they're not going to take our organs until we're dead. Well, let me tell you something, folks. They didn't think I was going to live. They didn't through the night. And then the next day after my mother got there, they told her I wouldn't live another day. Every time my eyes, this part of my face, I forgot to tell you about my face. This part, the bottom part of my face, is over here on, kind of like here on the side of my face. All the roof of my mouth's metal, all my jaw's metal. I couldn't really talk. All I could do was grunt, but every time I would just open my eyes, they get right in my face and go, "Are you an organ donor?" And I go, dude. I was literally fighting for my life. The last time they asked me, I remember I closed my eyes and I said, "Jesus, please let them take my organs. My organs is all I got going for me." And he didn't let them take them. I laid there from a little after 8 on a wooden backboard with a cervical collar on, bloody, messed up, glass sticking out of me and everything else, till 9:15 the next morning. Because they were so sure I was going to die. But Jesus didn't let me, okay? So I'm just saying, there's a fine line between living and dying. They were waiting for you. There was nobody there that could do anything at all for me. And I believe in waiting for me to die, they would have took my organs, sewed me up, sent word back home to my poor 90-year-old mother that I had died. She would have sent clothes to the funeral home, and that would have been the end of it, and nobody would have ever known.
Right. That's just horrifying.
Well, when they finally put me in a bed, which was after 9 o'clock that next morning, I remember, oh, this feels so good. I've been on that hard wooden backboard for over 12 hours. I still wasn't cleaned up, but when I felt that bed underneath my body, I was oh so thankful. I was oh so thankful. I wasn't worried about anything at all.
Now, were you in any pain at that time?
I still didn't feel anything.
That's amazing. That's just amazing.
My friend who had gone to the hospital came in the room then. Oh, they put me in like intensive care where I had a nurse right by my bed all the time with all the monitors and all this stuff. They still just knew I was going to die, right? Well, anyway, my friend came in there and I couldn't move and I couldn't talk and I couldn't do anything. And I remember she was trying to get some glass out of my forehead. She says, "Why don't you close your eyes and go to sleep?" And she couldn't understand what I was saying, but I was trying to tell her, I don't want to go to sleep back up. Because I could hear everything that the doctors had been saying. They didn't think I knew anything. They thought I was just about gone. And if I did remember it, it wouldn't matter because I won't coming back. That's what they thought.
Wow. Wow.
Well, back to learning patience, my whole accident had a whole lot to do about I had another thing to learn while I was here on earth. I believe we all have steps we go through, you know, things we need. We haven't learned them to make ourselves a better person. For a year and a half of my life, I was flat on my back with no use of either arm or either leg, and 6 months my mouth. If somebody didn't take a straw and put some kind of liquid in my mouth so I could swallow it, I didn't get it. Well, I learned patience. I
I
was
would say
so
so.
thankful when somebody would put something. I'm sorry, what, hon?
No, I said I would say so. You learned it.
I was when someone would put something in my mouth, I was so thankful. If somebody just wiped me, I was just so thankful for everything. And most of all, I was so thankful to God because I was alive and I knew He was the reason I was, because nobody else tried to keep me around. And I owed it all to Him. Well, I was in intensive care for 3 weeks. I was in the 3 months. I couldn't get on back for a year and a half after that. When they did release me where I could get out, they wouldn't let me go home until my mother had it. My room was a hospital room completely. There had to be ramps at the house on every door. There I had to have a trauma nurse and a nurse's aide the rest of the time for 8 months. 8 months at the house.
Who paid for that? Like, who pays for that? Does Medicare cover that stuff, or did your insurance cover it at the time? Because you were
Well,
working during that time, right?
right. Well, my mother couldn't get all that stuff built around the house. She couldn't do all this and she couldn't do all that. And the members of my church back home fixed it.
Oh,
They
praise the
rearranged the
Lord.
room. They got everything right. And at that time, yes, I did have a job and I did have insurance, and my insurance paid for it. Well, the day to come home, I was just flat all the time. I could not move anything. The way I got out of the hospital, I had no one to go pick me up or be with me. I had to ride an ambulance all the way home anyway. So the way I got out was I got my pen. I had all these casts on it. Here's a pen. And I held it with my little finger and I made an X on the papers. That's how I got out.
Oh my goodness. That's just
when I get home that next year and a half, that's what I call my get together with God. I had gone through so much, and I knew now there was nothing but better things ahead. When I got home, that was the first time I actually seen my face in a mirror for a long time. When I got hit, I weighed 147 pounds. And when I came home, I weighed 82 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
And my face looked like a skeleton with skin on it. But that didn't get me down either. They said they never sent me to rehab. They said I would never walk right. Well, I don't walk right, but I walk. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, it's like I would pray every night for when I finally got the strength back. I had to learn how to do everything over just like a baby. Just like a baby. I had to learn how to talk, to get my words to come out so you could understand me correctly. I had to learn how to sit up in bed like a baby. I had to learn everything over just like a baby. Well, I would pray to God to please help me and send me the knowledge of how I could get out of bed on one foot. This was like months later, I mean, a long time down the road, okay? But when I had my strength back, I knew I had to get myself together, and he was the only one that could help me. My mother was old, and somebody had to look after her. Well, I was still in cast, and I was in my wheelchair, and yes, some days it's my cane, some days it's my walker, some days it's my wheelchair. Whatever kind of day it is, that's how I pick my whatever kind of day I'm having, that's what transportation I pick to choose to use. So anyway, I was still in cast, but the first thing after I learned how to set up, I still couldn't get in my wheelchair off the bed by myself. But I'll never forget, it was at Christmas time. And they had rolled me out to the dining room table. And I had two cousins, two aunts, and my mother were sitting around me. And they were just carrying on, chitter-chattering, and I was just sitting there. One of my aunts had one of those canes that have four prongs on it. You seen those four-pronged canes?
Right. Yeah.
She was right next to me. I thought, they ain't watching me. Then I thought, well, if I get up, there's so many people here, somebody won't let me stay in the floor. They'll pick me back up. Well, something came to me. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and the good Lord said, Jewel, see, one of my arms, this arm, my left arm, was in a cast straight up like this for a year and a half. It don't bend but this far.
Right.
It was
I can
straight
see
up
the
there.
scar. I can see the scar there.
You can see scars. Well, this arm was in a cast like this, but the cast went up over my elbow, okay? Well, something said, and when I hear a voice in my head, I always say my conscience is God talking to me, right? So God said, Joel, put that cast down on the kitchen table. Try to put some pressure on it and on your better foot, see if you can kind of lift yourself up a little bit out of that wheelchair. So I did. Soon as they saw me lifting myself up like that, sit down, sit down, sit down. I wasn't but like 2 inches up out of the chair. Okay, I said, okay. Well, then they got to talking again. Well, I got up, I grabbed my aunt's cane, and I stood up. And I wasn't there 2 seconds, and I sat right back down, but it made me so happy. That was the best Christmas that I could have. Well, all this time, see, back and forth, when I had to go to the doctor before I could sit in my wheelchair. I had to go to my doctor's appointments in the ambulance because still I couldn't sit up or nothing, right? But when I did that one little thing after I could sit up, I thought to myself, okay, Jesus, thank you. There ain't no stopping now. What we got to do next, I got to learn how to get out of the bed and get in my wheelchair. 2 or 3 days went by, and he gave me the courage, and I put my better leg down. And he even told me, he says, lean up next to the bed so if you fall, you'll fall backwards on the bed. You won't get hurt. And just try to balance yourself and make sure that your walker or your chair is right close by. Well, 3 days, and I got my walker over there, and I got in my chair, and then I proceeded to learn how to wheel myself around with my cast on and my legs in cast, and I tore down a few doors at Mom's house, but I learned how to do it. Well, after I had accomplished that for a few months, I said, okay, God, we got to learn how to do without the chair. We got to learn how to actually walk if I'm supposed to. Well, then right out of the blue, my arms, I can't put weight down on my arms at all. So my walker, I can't use a walker like most people would use it. I can now, but at that point I couldn't, and it's still kind of iffy at times. But God said, Jewel, get you some posts for your walker, put post on it, and put some little arm cubbies on it, and put some Velcro on it. So I would make sure that was up beside my bed, and I'd balance myself on one foot, and I'd stick my arms through that. I'd take my head and I'd mash the Velcro through, and I could lift up the walker with my shoulders and try to walk.
Wow.
So I did that. I got it on me, and I walked from my room down my mother's hall and back one time. Oh, did it hurt? Yes. But I was so happy it didn't matter. So what I do the next day, I did it twice. And the third day, I did it 3 times. And the fourth day, I did it 4 times. Till I got up to doing it 10 times a day. And after I would do it, I had to lay down and I couldn't get back up for the rest of the day. But that didn't matter. I built myself up. Well, I went to the doctor one day, and I'm not going in all the gory. I've left a lot of stuff out, but there's no need to talk about all that stuff. I said what was important, okay?
Right.
While I was in bed all those many months, I got somebody to make a rack to go on the back of my bed and hold over so my Bible would go in it. And I would put a pencil in my mouth, and with the eraser, I could turn the pages and I could read the Bible. Like that, you know? I could turn the pages and I could read the Bible by myself. So that was a big deal. I was doing it by myself. Well, I read the Bible all the way through twice during all this. That's my get together with God time. That's what I call it, okay? And when I went to the doctor, after I could sit up and do everything like that, the doctor says, well, oh, well, yeah, they wanted to put me in a rest home. That's what the doctors wanted me to be, in a rest home. And if I had been put there, I probably would have gone on and died, because it would have I'd probably lost my will to live. Okay?
Right. Not only that, but they wouldn't have helped you get up as many times as you had to, you know,
Well,
like,
see, nobody was there to help. I had to wait for someone to come to help me when I did get up, okay? Even when I was home. But he said, he looked at me, he says, well, it looks like you're doing pretty good. You're doing better than I thought you would. I said, I can do all kind of things, Doc. God done taught me how to do all kind of things. God's taught you how to do a lot of things? I said, yeah. Let me show you something. Well, I had a friend there with me, and she brought my cane in. I said, you're not, and he had me stretched out on the table, of course. I said, you're not going to believe this. He says, I know you can sit up. I said, yes, sir. I said, but watch. I sat up. I got off the bed, and I walked over to his desk, and I signed my name with my left hand, and I'm right-handed.
wow. What did he do?
He just kind of looked and says, how did you learn how to do all that? I said, I told you, God taught me. And God in steps would send me messages. I know it was him, it wasn't nobody else. Of how to learn to do each little thing I had to learn to do to get my life back as whole as it could be.
Well, praise the Lord. I bet
And
that was
and
something he'll never forget.
and let me tell you folks something. From the moment I opened my eyes getting off that backboard in the hospital and they put me in the bed, from that moment until right now while I'm talking to you, I am so thankful to be alive that nothing else matters. Nothing else matters except to thank God, to trust God, and He is with you all the time.
Whew. Well, you have an amazing testimony there, and I am just grateful to God that you're alive, because you are just an amazing friend to me, and I just thank the Lord that you're still here with us.
Thank you, Michelle. And thank you for having me here today. I haven't told my testimony in a while. I used to when I first could get out. Now I do well, all of my I have no family. All my family's passed away. I have to take care of myself. I drive. I have a little pickup truck. Yes, it's old, but it runs just fine. I don't have to keep up with the Joneses. It's all fixed for me, and I'm very thankful for it. And it's like I just have so many things to be thankful for. We just people, let me tell you, when you can't walk by yourself, when you can't talk so no one can understand you, when you can't even sit up in bed or take a bath by yourself or go to the bathroom by yourself, when you can do those things again by yourself, you'll be a much thankful person for every second of the day that you have left on earth. Don't take it for granted. Don't take for granted eating food by yourself. Don't take for granted putting your clothes on by yourself. Don't take for granted any of the stuff. Washing your face, because it can all be taken away from you in the blink of an eye.
Right. Just like that.
And it don't mean it's coming back till it's supposed to come back. So please don't take anyone or anything for granted. And be thankful no matter what's wrong with you or what you have. If you don't think it's, be thankful for everything. Everything. Because God's there. Always. Always. And that's about all I got to say.
That touches my heart, and I feel with us, and I feel the Holy Spirit's with us while you're sharing your testimony. And I just want to thank you for doing that. I know that can't be completely easy to talk about some of that stuff that you did, and I know there was a lot more to it than what you didn't need to share. But what you did share, I really appreciate it, Jay. I really appreciate it, and we are so grateful to have you in our lives and able to, share your testimony, and just, you're so wise in your words, and we're grateful to have you in our lives, and I just want to thank you for that.
Well, there is one little thing I'd like to add. I thought was, I never lost my will to live, my spirit, no matter what. 5 days had gone by. They send a shrink in my room, okay? He goes, Jewel, we need to have a talk. And here I am like, He goes, you haven't cried. You haven't asked for any pain medication. You haven't done anything. You haven't had nightmares. You haven't done anything. Something's not right for your situation. He says, do you know who the president? And I'm going to talk the only way I could talk then was kind of like that, okay? You can't understand me though. I said, yes, sir. I know who the president is. He says, well, who is the president? George Bush, his wife Laura. They live in Washington, D.C. My rep was last Saturday night. My name's J Chesson. My birthday was 1955, and today is Tuesday. Is there anything else you want to know? He said, no, ma'am, I don't think you need me, and I won't be back.
Oh.
But I thought that was rather amusing that they did that. So I never have. Here's something else, too. This is very important before I quit talking about this. Everybody gets ticked off once in a while, but there's a difference in getting ticked off and getting actually mad. To me, I haven't been mad since I got ran over, and it will be 19 years this October.
Wow.
I haven't been mad. I've got lots of patience. I try not to put myself in a situation that I will get ticked off. But like I say, getting and getting mad are two different things. You can get ticked off about something and forget it in 5 minutes, But
Right.
if you're actually mad, I think that's when people really do things before they think, and a lot of the times it winds up not being good for them either, getting anybody. So my wreck made me even closer to God than ever. And God taught me patience. And the man who hit me, I could like today. He never come to see me. And he just got, it's amazing. He just got the bones in his hand broke. He never called me. He never wrote me. He never came to see me. I could not tell you what he looks like. And everybody thinks, oh, Joe, you should be a millionaire, man. Well, let me tell you a little story. He said he hit me because there was someone on a bike, and he knew if he hit them, they would die. Me and hoped I would. Well, I didn't see nobody on a bicycle, but I didn't feel like arguing about it. At that point, I just lived and breathed from day to day while all that stuff was going on. Okay.
Right.
All I got from that accident was that man's car insurance, which did not even pay that much of my hospital bill. And it did pay for my helicopter ride and about that much of my hospital bill. But my hospital bill was almost $2 million.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, but I was never mad at him. I haven't been mad at anybody because you know why? Sure, I messed up, but it made a much better person out of me than I was before I got ran over.
It's amazing.
It made a much, I know that probably sounds crazy to a lot of people, but yeah, I heard 24 hours a day like everybody else, okay? But there's always somebody worse off than I am somewhere. And it's like, be thankful for what you got and pray about what you need, not what you want, but what you need. And if you truly need it, God will make sure you get it.
Amen.
And the
I
last
believe
thing,
that.
and I'm winding up, no matter what happens to you in life, whether you get in a car accident or whether you come down with some dreadful disease or anything, don't worry about it. Pray about it and think positive. Because you know what? I should, in all reality, be dead. But for me, he just wanted me to learn some things to better myself. You're not going to go until the good Lord is ready for you. When your number comes up and he's ready for you, there ain't nobody on earth going to keep you here. So if these things happen in your lifetime, don't sit around and worry yourself to death about it. Pray about it. If it's not your time, you ain't going nowhere. If it is your time, ain't nobody gonna keep you here.
That's great advice. Very great advice. Very wise. Very wise. Well, while you were talking your testimony or sharing your testimony, I opened the Bible. I do this periodically just to see, what the Holy Spirit wants to share. And I just wanted to share this with you. I opened it to Ezekiel 21:9. Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord, a sword is sharpened and also furbished. So it's amazing that you're, you know, you may not be 100% like you are, but you know, you've been sharpened and you're refurbished and you're expressing love to people and you're sharing your knowledge and your wisdom, and most importantly, you know, you're showing the world your love for the Lord. And I appreciate you sharing this with us today, Jay. I know it wasn't the easiest thing to do, but you know, you certainly have our support and love, and anything we can ever do for you, you let us know.
That's so kind and sweet, and God bless you for everything you do for me and everyone else. And thank you for having me on the show today. I hope just any little portion of anything I said will help somebody find the light in the way.
Well, I believe wholeheartedly it will help people, and you know, I appreciate you sharing that with us, and you know, we just love you.
I love all
And
you guys too.
all right, well, thank you, Jay, and we're going to wrap this up for Celestial Remnant, and stay with us. There'll be some more testimonies. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye.